Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, March March 18th, 2025. And as always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today. I'm Tim Hayes, your host for the first hour, and today we're going to spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that webpage and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and if you choose to do that, before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we greatly appreciate if you would do that. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@yagain.org. You can also go to your app store and download the Needle app, Needl, AI tuner for live radio. Once you download that app, open it up, log in, answer a couple questions. It gives you the option to either type a comment to us through the app or tap the phone icon and talk to us voice to voice. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that is just boatloads easier to do when we have people like you giving us feedback, active feedback about what's of most use to you in the work that we're doing, whether it's reading books with commentary or working through worksheet processes or discussing our favorite teachers who have different, slightly different angles on how a process like the Reality Management Worksheet can be of benefit, and things we can do to improve our life and relationships as creators of our experience. So how can we be of service to you? I was busy this morning doing an interview with Carol Look on her new book. As of, I think, October of last year, her book is titled The Yes Code, Transforming Sabotage into Success. And with some luck, a couple of weeks from today, that interview will publish. As soon as I was finishing that interview, I had somebody on the phone asking about how do I find a good therapist in my area. So we were reviewing that. The The first thing I say to people is, in order to have any chance whatsoever that therapy is going to be successful, you have to have these two critical pieces. One of them is you need someone that knows what he or she is doing, and the next thing is you need someone with whom you are comfortable. If either of those two pieces are missing, there's no chance for success. So please understand that when you're interviewing a therapist, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and multiple degrees and doctorates and tons of postgraduate training in all the best techniques is not enough if you're not comfortable enough with that person. You're not going to go to her long enough that she could help you, and you're not going to tell her the things she needs to know to help you. Over and over again, what we learn when they do research about what's most effective in therapy is the relationship between the therapist and the client slash patient, and this willingness on the part of the patient to explore what their own internal process is. So all the tools in the world can't help you if you don't pick them up and use them. So I was just composing an email for this person, listing a series of resources, and it's something I haven't done in a while. I've done it years ago, but I'm looking at how when people ask questions like this, and then I put a little bit of time into the response, the response ends up being a really good resource. So just the beginning of what I was mentioning to this person, of course, it has the book by Carol Look in it because I just finished interviewing her. But it also has the book by Diederik Wolzak, the Choose Again book. It has Dr. Michael Ryce's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It has a link to the interview I did with Diederik Wolzak, which you can find on YouTube, specifically in the Journey's Dream channel on YouTube. And then it has a link to the short version of the Reality Management Worksheet, the mental short version that I publish on mindshiftersacademy.org on the educational materials page. And then it mentions Byron Katie's work and how you can find her on YouTube with her 4 questions and her turnarounds. And then it has Brad Yates as a resource, and I put a link to the 2 interviews I did with Brad Yates for Journey's Dream that are available on YouTube. And then I mentioned internal family systems work and Richard Schwartz's most recent book. I think it's his most recent one that's titled You Are the One You've Been Waiting For. And that talks about using internal family systems work in intimate relationships. It also mentions the EMDR as a technique, which is just a tech, doesn't magic all by itself, and yet hands of a skilled therapist in the process of a therapy dynamic between you and therapist can be cool. So, just the beginning of a good list of resources that people might use when trying to figure out how do I find a good therapist. And some of those tools might resonate well with you, and all it really matters is that you're comfortable enough with it that we have plenty of time for comments and questions. I don't know exactly where to go because I've been over the map in my private practice already this morning, and I'm trying to turn on the microphone for Celinda. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of noise, like you're rubbing something against your microphone.
I was chewing my apple. You caught me in the middle of chewing my apple, so I'm not singing anymore. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and there is quite a bit of extra noise, like
Let
something
me turn the heater off.
is bumping up against your actual phone. It's not something, it's not a background noise. This has to do with the microphone that you're talking into.
Okay,
Something's brushing up against it.
I'm not sure what that is. Is it still happening?
No, not right now,
Okay. I bumped
thankfully.
against my nightstand a couple times. That might have been it.
Okay, so how can we support you today?
Well, I'd like that list, if you don't mind sending it, that you sent to that other person. And also, I had what I feel is very profound aha, and I did a work. I um, have put down my thought, my emotion, my trigger, and my goal, and I would love to do this worksheet if possible. Let me close the door. Okay, I'm back.
Okay. All right, you want to do the worksheet.
Sure.
All right. Where do you want me to start?
I have the short form and of Michael's worksheet, and I'll just start reading it down until I get down to number 4, which is the goal. I, Celinda, who am love, am experiencing rage. This is overriding emotion at the moment. I have identified others, but this is the one I want to work on first. My denial displaces my experience of myself as my essence, love, and my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my trigger. I am focused on myself or anyone and anything. It doesn't have to be me or them. It's the whole enchilada. I and my story is I resist surrendering fully to life from fear of harm or death. I'm going to take a breath here. The thought, and I only put one thought down for this one, I use to cause my emotion is everything and everyone, especially myself, must always be perfect so I can be right, in control, have my own way, ever safe, be forever safe.
All right,
Does
that's a,
that
that's
noise?
that's a lot. That's a lot, and that's a thought you're using. You're trying to figure out what thought you're using to generate rage.
Yeah, and that's it.
All right,
It's
so I know that you think that's it. So help me understand this, right? So try to read this thought again. I must be perfect, and then what?
everything and everyone, including myself, especially myself, must always be perfect so I can be right, in control, have my own way, and be forever safe. And I'll tell you why if you're interested
Wait,
that
hold
I
on a
have.
minute. Hold on. I don't want to get too caught up in a story. I want to be able to understand what you're doing in this
Okay,
worksheet.
okay,
So we're looking for the thought that you're using to generate rage. And I absolutely believe you that you're having this thought that you must be perfect always and so must everybody else so that you can be right and safe.
right.
I believe that. I would like you to help me understand how you translate from that thought to rage.
because rage is my control mechanism. Rage or the punishment mechanism is rage or withdrawal, depending if I'm in power or I feel
Are you there?
and it's very myself.
All right, you're breaking up. So Linda, are you there? All right, so Linda, I'm not hearing anything. I will ask anybody else who's on the call to type a comment if you are hearing Celinda or if she broke up for you as well. What comments I already have are that she's hard to hear and that she's broken up. Okay, so the call has dropped with Celinda, and I'll just hopefully she'll be able to call back in. Um, I just want to highlight for people what we're doing here, especially in my very short 4-step to 5-step version of the reality management worksheet. I like to tell people that when I identify an upset in my system, step one is that I give it an emotion word label. So I'm feeling mad, sad, glad, scared, etc., angry, whatever. In the second step, I recognize that I will never be having a negative emotional state unless first I was pouring my mind energy into the thought that's generating that emotion. And so, what I'm working on here with Celinda in this step is to identify what's the specific thought that she's using to generate this emotion. Now, I'm hearing clicking noises as though somebody else is on the call. Let me ask, is anybody else hearing the clicking noises?
Yes, this,
Celinda, are you there? My app says I have no callers, and yet I thought I heard Celinda.
yes. Can you hear me?
It's a very bad connection,
I'm
kind of
here.
underwater. I'm catching every other word. So, Celinda, let me ask you to hang up, close the app, and try calling back in through the app. I don't have control over that. My app says that I don't have any callers. I have 7 listeners, but nobody in the call list. And so perhaps Celinda can close the app and start it up again. Maybe that will help. Maybe it's I'm getting all kinds of weird noises. So bless their hearts, anybody who's hanging on through all of this. So the point I was trying to make is that if I generate rage, I'll be able to think about a specific thought in each moment that I'm using to generate and strengthen that emotion of anger or rage. And the thought that Celinda gave me about how she must be
Hello.
perfect always. Celinda, are you there?
I'm here. Are you there? Hello.
Yeah, it's a faint signal and it's breaking up as though you're having cell phone issues. So um, you can try speaking again. I don't know how that's working because my cell phone or my app on the phone says I have no callers. So while it is absolutely delightful to have this technology that allows us to reach people, it's not working so smoothly right now. So the point I was making is that if I have a long rambling thought about how I need to be safe, if I'm not focusing on what I believe is my threat right now, it'll be difficult for me to generate rage. I might be able to generate rage at myself for not doing what I need to stay safe. I might be able to generate rage about my thoughts that somebody else is doing something to make me unsafe. And that's where I was trying to direct Celinda in talking about her worksheet process. So I'm hearing some background noise again. Celinda, are you there? All right. Does anybody else have a comment or a question you want to type in the comment section or raise a hand on the phone so we can speak voice to voice? That would happen if you download the Needle app. It can't happen if you're listening live at live.needle.com/mindshiftersradio. So plenty of time for comments, questions, answers, testimonials. As I was mentioning, the Byron Katie work and the Diedrich Wolzak work are very similar to the reality management worksheet process. And I just encourage people to keep shopping around until you find something that works well for you, that resonates with your personality and your willingness to actually pick up the tool and use it. I have a number of people who come and see me and they're absolutely happy with EFT tapping. They'll tap EFT tapping with me in a session and get tremendous benefits with me coaching them through the tapping. I have other people that the tapping seems silly to them and they won't touch it, but they'll do the reality management worksheets. I have other people, they won't do the reality management worksheets or the tapping, but they'll let me do muscle testing with their arm and do the neuro-emotional technique. I have other people that don't like that, but they're willing to do the EMDR and they'll hold the paddles in their hands as they vibrate left and right, and we coach them through allowing things to come to the surface of awareness, just like we do when we're reading the forgiveness pattern in the reality management worksheet, where I cancel whatever's going on at my conscious logical mind and I invite something other than my logical conscious mind to make me aware, to give me some kind of an insight or an intuition or an inspiration. And we do that in the office with people with the EMDR. And we create this space where we're coaching them to understand that everything they've already lived through is perfectly safe for them to have direct experience of again, to remember, the downloads, to remember the beliefs that they downloaded, and to open them all up, old beliefs, old thoughts, old conclusions, so that they can get questioned anew and understand that it's absolutely possible for you to go through even the most intense memory of something negative from your past and benefit from it rather than getting stuck in a loop of just remembering the worst of the worst and getting re traumatized. And for most people, that needs to happen in a therapeutic context where there is support and there is a skilled facilitator and there is a sense of an understanding about the dynamics that each of us create in our lives as we pour our mind energy into thoughts which generate intense emotional responses, which motivate our behavior more powerfully than most of us understand. And that's why um, the worksheet I did, the worksheet that Susan did, um, I guess Susan did that on Friday. And then the worksheet that I reviewed on Monday that I had done last Thursday night in the support group is, I believe they're so useful as a template, as a tutorial, because, here's a situation where I'm reasonably competent adult with a doctorate and 50 years of experience doing therapy, and yet I read something in an email from a friend, and my mind is looking for something it doesn't see, or it's looking for something that it doesn't want to see, and then it sees it and it throws a negative interpretation on it. And then the end result is I'm churning with negative emotions and I feel like I've been punched in the gut and it's hard for me to catch a breath. Now, there's nothing about the life situation a week ago today, later at night, when I was reading that email. There's nothing about that situation that was causing a disruption in my ability to breathe or in my physical energy system. And there's nothing negative or derogatory that was being pointed towards me from this friend who was giving me feedback on this interview I sent her. And yet I generated a tremendous amount of negativity and energy that was so disruptive that it literally made it difficult for me to breathe. And if I'm willing to go look at it, willing to look at what my mind is doing to create that negative emotion, looking at what the goal is that my mind says should be happening right now instead of the way it looks to me to be unfolding. And I just ask to be shown, how am I creating all of this upset in this moment? I have to step out of the conditioning of my culture, which makes me believe that my emotions are caused by the people and things outside of me, and that it's perfectly normal to get upset about this, that, and the other thing. It's perfectly normal to be racked with grief when this or that happens. And while it's an accurate statement, it's perfectly normal, meaning it happens a lot, that doesn't mean it's healthy. That doesn't mean it's beneficial. It doesn't mean that it's inevitable without anything I can do to intervene. And these points of intervention, these tools, the reality management worksheet, the EFT tapping, Byron Katie's questions, and the benefit that I got from doing Michael Rice's reality management worksheet might be amplified or clarified even more if I step through Byron Katie's questions. So I have this thought that my friend thought I made a mistake in the interview or I didn't ask important questions and therefore I decreased the value of the interview by not asking certain questions. And then I can use Byron Katie's questions to say, well, do I know that that is true? And I'd look at it and I'd say, well, yeah, it seems true to me. And here's what she said, and here's how it strikes me. And then the next question I ask with Byron Katie's work is, do I absolutely, beyond any doubt, know that this is true? Can I positively, absolutely know this is true? And in my work on Tuesday night, the answer would have had to be no. I can't know for sure because this other person's not here to clarify what their intent was. I know that's what I'm making it mean in my mind, but that doesn't mean that that's what she was thinking or what she was hoping to transmit as a communication. The next question in the Byron Katie list is, how do I feel when I believe this negative thought is true? That my friend is criticizing me or telling me that I missed an opportunity or that I minimized the usefulness of that interview because I didn't ask certain questions in certain ways. And then I breathe and soften and I recognize this doesn't feel good at all. This is now I'm generating this difficulty breathing and this feeling of getting punched in the gut. And then the next question is, how would I feel if I stopped believing that was true or I believed the opposite of it? And I can readily step into the experience. That would feel much better if I didn't believe she was criticizing me and if I thought instead she was praising my work and the value of that interview. And I can imagine that I feel a rather immediate shift in my energy when I think, yeah, here's a person that I trust and respect. And if she's coming at me with a compliment about this and talking about how useful that interview is, well, it feels much better. And then if I don't have enough of a shift there yet, I can continue working with it with what Byron Katie calls turnarounds. So, I thought that she was criticizing me. What if I'm criticizing her? What if she's complimenting me? And I can play with the thoughts because I created them. They aren't cast in stone, and they only have the meaning for me that I give to them. And that's one of the more powerful lessons that we get from the Course in Miracles is that I'm creating all the meaning that this situation has for me. And when I wake up and realize that, and I give myself permission to explore the meaning that I'm creating, and I learn to question it, question everything. That's one of the big values that I see in a book like Carol Look's The Yes Code. It's loaded with good questions. What if there's a payoff for me in staying stuck? What if there's a downside to achieving the goal I say I want to achieve? What if I've got layers at which I'm afraid to be seen as a success that I'm not aware of consciously? Question after question after question. If you've been listening to this internet show for a while, you know that I love to talk about Rilke, Rainier Maria Rilke, and his, you know, the writing he did in, Letters to a Young Poet, where he's calling us to learn to live in the question and learning to live in the question without demanding an instant answer for really solid reasons. Why would you ask a question and not demand an answer? What's the value of the question? Well, the question, it turns out, when we hold the question in the mind, it activates our brain in a different way. It keeps us on alert. It keeps us actively looking for options and in a more flexible state. And they've done solid research where they hook people up with, live electroencephalographs and computer aided um, biofeedback work and functional MRIs and ask people to consider questions and watch the brain activity go through the roof and then ask them to decide on an answer. And when they stop the questioning because they've decided they know that this is what it is, the brain activity plummets. So there's a value to learning to live in a questioning state. There's a value to it that's echoed in the Way of Mastery, where it gives us exercises to take some time in the middle of the day and pick up an object wherever you are in your environment. Pick it up and look at it and question, where did this come from? What is it made out of? When was the first time a human being had an idea to create something like this? Where did the materials that are making up this thing I'm holding in my hand, where did they come from? And as I ask those questions and recognize that I don't have a clue what the answers are to any of them, then I enter this observant state where my mind is awake and alert and I understand I'm I'm capable of learning and being taught moment to moment all through my life if I just ask life to teach me. And that my intellectual capacities will be sharper and I will have a better chance of seeing the actuality of life more accurately. And I can stay in that mode and actively question whenever I generate something that's less than love. And staying in that questioning mode is valuable beyond words. And Guy Finley understands this. Guy Finley says, your creator didn't put you in a world where you have to search for decades to find the right spiritual teacher to reach enlightenment. He says, your creator put you in a world where your instant, constant connection to the forces that can teach you will never abandon you if you just ask it to teach you. So living in the question, staying open, keeping the breath moving, understanding what's the biggest thing that people learn the more they study, the more intelligent people in the world explore and take classes and ask for training. What's the biggest thing they learn? The biggest thing they learn is how little they actually know, how absolutely minimal my factual knowledge is, my breadth of knowledge is minuscule compared to the truth of life as it's unfolding. And my only chance of learning more and expanding what I have a grasp on is to stay in that questioning space. And this goes for everything. It's why I changed 20 years or so ago, maybe 25, I changed my list of bottom line rules to a list of bottom line observations because I woke up and realized it's so much more productive for me to live my life from the state of observing than it is to try and live according to certain rules or beliefs or dogmas. So here's hoping I'm being heard. Here's hoping we've got, the app says there are 9 people. And here's a message from Celinda that says she's in a queue. So here's a message that Jane says, I want to start doing worksheets again. I have an older version. I'd like to find a newer version. The newer version, the best way is to go to the whyagain.org website and click on the 2 words that say start here in the upper left hand corner, and then find what it says, the current version of the Reality Management Worksheet, a 7-step Reality Management Worksheet. And it's something very close to that, which is what I use in the support groups and on this internet show when people want to do a worksheet, if they ask me. Now, Celinda was trying to do this one earlier in a short version, and we're going to play around with things on the app and ask if Celinda can connect again. Celinda, is there any chance that you're there? Is anyone hearing Celinda talk? please type something in the comments if you're hearing Celinda. And thank you, Joe, for saying, nope, we can't hear Celinda. So the technology is not cooperating for us to finish the work with Celinda. Um, does anybody else have a comment or a question? I, I really get um, good feedback from people to just get their mind wrapped around the worksheet process by going to mindshiftersacademy.org and the educational materials page. And the first four links on that page are all about a mental short version of the worksheet process, the same worksheet process in smaller font and some space so you can make notes of it, the forgiveness pattern or a PDF file you can download, and an audio file. It's about 4 minutes long of me reciting the forgiveness pattern. So people can go there, do the first four steps of the worksheet process, and then hit play and listen to me. They can just sit there with their eyes closed and listen to the recording of me reciting the forgiveness pattern just to go a little bit deeper in asking to be shown what's the hidden part of their own mind that's creating their upset. And how might this be connected, whatever upset they're feeling today, be connected to negative beliefs or trauma energies they may have downloaded sometime in the past. One of the more insightful things that the way of the Course in Miracles tells us is I'm never upset for the reason I think I am. And you can build that out a little bit, and you can have the deep realization that whenever there's anger or fear or sadness or any other emotion that's unpleasant, whatever your mind is telling you about why that's happening is a lie. Because your mind is always going to be, it's been thoroughly trained by your culture and your family to look outside of you for the causes of your upset. And the cause of your anger, fear, sadness, hurt, confusion is never outside of your thought process. It's never outside of your mind body energy system. And the more you work with the Reality Management Worksheet, especially the current 7-step version, the more you get these reminders. Things like every time I have hostility and fear active in my mind, it comes from internal corrupt data, and it indicates my mind's use of this process we call sustained incoherence. It was a term coined by David Bohm. And it basically means that I'm generating the upset that I'm feeling and then thinking it's being caused by something outside of me. And then I just continue to do the process that's creating this upset, thinking maybe it'll lead to a solution. It'll never lead to a solution. Other reminders on the worksheet are that I need to choose to honor truth, and I need to be willing to face and process out all of the dis-ease producing energies in my mind body energy system and for all of my relations and my generations. There's another reminder on the worksheet that says if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. And worksheets tells me the truth is my reality is strictly internal, it's unique to me, and it's created out of my own thoughts. And if I just settle into that observation and keep repeating it, I can, over time, unravel the tremendous, powerful conditioning that I've been subjected to that has me believing that my upset, my negative, my irritation, my hurt, my grief Another reminder on the worksheet is that I need to cancel my need to be right. The Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery both let us know that you can either be right or happy. You can't have both. Guy Finley likes to talk about how you might notice that the better you get at being right about things, the more alone you are. Because people aren't really interested in being the fodder for your proving that you're right and they're wrong. So being right is not a really good way to connect with other people. Another reminder on the worksheet process is that whenever I'm upset, my perception, this very active process within me, is driven by corrupt data. And it's a product of 9 bits of data singled out of 10,000 bits of data processing in the frontal lobes of my brain at that point in time, and probably selected out of 20 trillion bits of data that have hit my senses in that same short period of time. And so, whatever pictures and whatever meaning my mind is creating for me and showing me is coming from a tiny, tiny fraction of a fraction of 1% of what's hitting my senses. And my senses aren't even able to pick up more than maybe a 1 or 2 or 3% of what's actually going on in any given moment. So it's unweaning arrogance and hubris to think I know what's going on at any given moment. And my experience of an anger or a fear or sadness or a hurt or a grief is far better used as an alarm system to wake me up to the fact that I'm engaged in a mental process right now that's not useful, right? I'm engaged in the process that's creating the upset that I say I don't want to feel. And, you know, another aspect of this worksheet process is that the it's kind of hidden. It's not directly talked about in the 7-step worksheet process, but the idea of the importance of canceling my goals and only holding goals for the next waking period that I have a reasonable chance to accomplish, and the tremendous value of routinely canceling any unachieved goals from either the recent or distant past and kind of freeing up old resources. I love the way in one of the original stories that Michael Ryce would tell in his 4-hour lecture on the workshop of Why Is This Happening to Me Again, he would talk about how every time I set a goal that I can't accomplish, it continues to run in my mind until it's either accomplished or I consciously cancel it. And an example of this came up in the last worksheet I did. I clearly had a goal running in my mind for this friend of mine from college to view me as a good person and as intelligent, right? To view me as doing good work in the world and being smart enough to be a friend of hers, right? And I didn't realize how powerfully that goal was still running in my mind and how another part of my mind was actively scanning, looking for anything it could use as proof that that goal was being violated. And as soon as I had some way to think about that as though that goal being violated, here comes all of this negative energy. Here comes me creating constriction in my abdomen and my diaphragm so that breathing was difficult. Here's me pouring mind energy into the thoughts that were generating irritation and emotional hurt. And it was because I had a goal running from back in my junior year of college that I wasn't even consciously aware of. And the benefit in my own personal processing to become aware of those goals when they surface to become aware of the connection between that goal and the negative experience I'm having in the moment, and to be willing to cancel that goal and everything related to it, all of what my mind is showing me as the facts or the data, cancel those goals and all of the associated thoughts and beliefs that go with it, and watch what bubbles up from underneath it. So, all of these different things are parts of the worksheet process, the 7 step worksheet process. And so, after I get people introduced to the short version, the mental short version of the Reality Management Worksheet from the mindshiftersacademy.org website and the educational materials page, after I get them introduced to that and they have some experience with it and benefit to it, I hasten to switch them over to the 7 step reality management worksheet because it's a little bit more thorough. It does a better job of unpacking the conditioning of my culture that makes me want to believe that other people are responsible for creating and maintaining my emotions. It also has the tremendous benefit of being available free on the internet on the whyagain.org website. And it also has the tremendous benefit of being connected to the free and private app that you can get at your app store, either the Google Play or the Apple App Store, by just typing in 3 words: Heartland, Aramaic, forgiveness. Heartland, Heartland, all one word. Aramaic, Aramaic. And then you start typing the word forgiveness, and before you're done typing it, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you choose to tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that has the reality management worksheet in it, an abbreviated version of the worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. So now on my app, it's showing a comment or two from Celinda that she's not able to comment, but apparently it's showing up over and over and over again, her comments being retyped. And then Jane says that what I'm sharing is helpful, and I'm glad that's helpful. And we have some time, probably only about 4 or 5 minutes left. So I won't push the issue. I will thank you all for being here and um, working through the technical issues with us. And I'll wrap this up a little bit early. Remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff that we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And I'll remind you that in just a few minutes, Michael and Jeannie should start their second hour and hopefully be live right here on the Needle app. And I'll thank you for being here and invite you back for tomorrow. Blessings.